start with that. I'm going to just ask you the question first. What is a pilgrimage, and why does it matter?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly couldn't teach the class or whatever you went to about what a pilgrimage is. But thinking in terms of like when I was a Protestant, I never really heard of that, right? I didn't know it was a special sort of spiritual act, right? A sort of spiritual discipline of a sort, right? You go to a certain place to see certain relics of the past, right? You see certain literally relics of Catholic saints, right? You go to a certain special location. So what you're doing is you're trying to put yourself in the proximity of holy things. And so to me, it seems like a way of entering into the way of sanctification, right? So as you encounter things that are sanctified and holy, you are trying to become more holy. So it's part of a spiritual discipline. That's what I would say. It's kind of a way of spiritual discipline within the Catholic tradition. You go on a pilgrimage.
Yeah. And that the first thing that strikes me is how different that was than when I went to Europe before.
Yeah.
When I went with Katie, it was a wonderful, probably the best memory of my life is that Europe trip. 30 days backpacking around was incredible. I just remember being blown away in general by all of the wonderful art and architecture and just the old culture. That was kind of what blew me away.
Yeah.
It wasn't really spiritual in that sense. I wasn't going to be spiritual.
It wasn't like an act of a prayer, as it were, like your whole trip is a prayer with an intention, right? And every day has an intention, right? That you're practicing the presence of God in this experience.
Yeah, I would think that would be something that would be distinctly different.
Yes.
Is there would be an intention.
Yes.
I'm going on this trip for the purpose of
100%
learning more about God, learning more about others. Now, I think it's going to be overwhelming a little bit as a Catholic because now I'm going to care about each saint on each sculpture, on each pillar in each cathedral. I'm probably going to be completely exhausted by the end, but it's, I'll literally be, falling over and dreaming about all the saints and which will be good.
Yes.
But it'll be like a brain worm.
Yeah. Maybe one way to think about it that I think is really important again, reflecting on sort of the difference when we were Protestants, when we were Catholics, is the communion of saints. To me, that's such an important idea.
Yeah.
And it seems like something that we all sort of as Protestants kind of would say we believe in. But then you might, I mean, if I can think back to all the houses of all my friends or my friends' parents back when I was in college, like people don't have pictures of saints around their house, right? They don't have an altar, obviously, with certain like icons, right, of saints. So they don't have an environment where the saints are around and reminders of the saints, right? Now, of course, they believe abstractly, the people are up in heaven, but they don't interact with the people up in heaven. It's like the people up in heaven aren't alive.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like when they died, well, they died, but that's what pagans think. We don't think that we just die. We think that's a doorway to the eschaton.
Yeah.
And so I feel like the communion of saints, in one way, I didn't really believe it, even if I would have said, I believe there's people up in heaven. I wouldn't have called them saints.
That's true. I believed it, but I believed it like so many people believe in Jesus.
Yes.
They admit that that's true.
Yeah.
But that's not the kind, like the demons, no, they believe in God.
Yes.
But they don't trust God. They don't have a relationship with God in the sense of some
interrelationship.
Like we do, an interrelationship. Yeah. And so to me, I believed in it like that. Yeah, it's true. People are in heaven.
Yep.
But there was nothing in my life, which to me is the big difference with the pilgrimage. Is again, not to say the difference between a Catholic and a Protestant, but it is important because I don't think as a Protestant I was going on a pilgrimage. I was going on a tour. I was a tourist.
Yes.
Not a pilgrim.
Yes.
But pilgrimages go way back.
I mean, you can maybe even say the distinction between, it's a really important distinction in Aristotle, right, between leisure, right, and amusement.
Okay.
Right. So when I'm going to Europe, right, when I went to Europe, it was kind of, yes, it was significant. It was something I could think about. So it was kind of contemplative, right, or his term was leisure. Contemplation's better. It had a contemplative aspect, but it was mostly something that's really fun and interesting to do, right? It's for the sake of the enjoyment, not in a disgusting way. It's not like a hedonistic thing. But that's sort of the point of it. Whereas when you go on a pilgrimage, it is a direct act of prayer. It is a direct attempt to contemplate, worship, praise, exult in God and his people and the things he's done in history. Like Christianity, history's Christianity, right? It was I would say, the linchpin to my conversion, right? That I was like, I want to be part of history's Christianity, not the abstract idea of the church, right?
Which,
all the people that believe put them in a category abstractly, and that's what I believe in. No, I believe in this thing that's marching through history, right? The church militant.
The thing,
as
Chesterton
would say.
the
thing.
Yeah.
Concrete reality, not abstract.
I always thought that, like Catholicism in one sense is like a concrete Christianity, and Protestantism is more of an abstract Christianity. But I think there's better words: sacramental versus propositional.
That's really good.
I heard that when I was listening to some other YouTube people, and I was like, oh, that's really good.
I mean, if we could even admit that distinction, there's a kind of quick argument. I don't mean to make a cheap, quick argument, but like think about that sacramental.
Do you really not mean to
versus,
make a cheap, quick argument? Because you're gonna make a cheap, quick argument.
I'm a philosopher, so I'm always tempted to resort to sophistry, right? That's the danger of being philosophical, is you can slip into being a sophist. So I'm hoping I'm not being a sophist here, but I mean, just compare that. Which one would you say on the face of it, if you had no prejudice either way, which one of those is more incarnational, right? A sacramental view or a propositional view?
Right. It seems obvious there. That's the cheap argument you're making.
That's what I'm saying. It seems so obvious.
Yeah, it is. But why is it, well, this would be a whole nother conversation, but why is it that's so hard to see for so many of my Protestant friends? Why do they need that?
Yeah.
That's what they a lot of times might think, is why would I need that?
Right. I think it's because they might deny that their faith is not concrete, because when they're thinking about their faith, right, and as we thought about our faith, it's an individual interrelationship with Jesus. It's not a communal, social, historical, institutional, right? It doesn't have to do with culture per se. Well, it has to do with an individual. So it's kind of inherently liberal, you might say, in terms of being individualistic. And so they would see, like, there is a concrete interrelationship there.
Yeah.
I have my own concrete history.
I say my prayers. I read my Bible.
Yes. I listen to God's voice.
Which are sacramentals to the church. Those are sacramentals, the Bible.
Yes. So I think that they would have that to a degree. So it wouldn't be simply propositional in terms of they only have an abstract thought about Jesus. Many of them are very devout, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think Catholics, typical Catholics who are sort of nominal or not trying to develop a personal faith, right? They could be instructed by the devout Protestants in that regard.
Yeah. So, I mean, to go back to the pilgrimage thing, I mean, so if we take this idea of concrete or sacramental versus propositional and abstract, I guess those are the two categories that we have. A Protestant or someone that's not even a Catholic or that's not religious is by nature not doing a pilgrimage if they're not intending it to be a pilgrimage.
Yes, I think that's key.
Because we mentioned the intending. So you have to intend it to be a pilgrimage, to be a pilgrimage, right?
Yes.
Could you go on a pilgrimage accidentally?
No, so I agree with you. That's a necessary condition.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely necessary condition.
So,
but not sufficient, because you need to go to certain places that are actually sites.
Here's the thing, and just in my view, thinking about we're going with 15 young people from our school, and there's another 75. So there's like 4 Chestertons that are meeting up, Chesterton academies that are meeting up and going on the same bus and the same tour around. And one of the things that some of our students ask is it okay to have fun on a pilgrimage?
Interesting. Because they understand, like, some contemplation means no enjoyment. Correct. Right.
There's some kind of idea that, like, being holy is not fun.
And that seems to me like, I remember this essay by Lewis talking about that very thing. Actually, it's in The Weight of Glory, right? The sort of Kantian notion has crept in, right? That if there's not some sort of suffering.
Hold on, you're throwing out like big names like Kant, but adding an IAN after, like Kantian.
All right.
So
I'm not going to go on a tangent about that, but a modern philosophical notion,
okay,
right, has crept into Christianity, corrupted Christianity.
Something that's bad from modern times, maybe some bad or faulty ideas, has crept into our own thinking about holiness,
and the idea
in our own like Catholic.
To me, it's right at the heart in Pieper's book, Leisure the Base of Culture, which we both love and we teach from often. Right, it's right at the heart of his book is this very idea I'm talking about. Is that something that's contrary to the contemplative mindset of the traditional Christianity of the Catholic Church, right? Right to the center of that, right, is contemplation. And it can be easy, it can be enjoyable, it can be intuitive, it can be spontaneous, it can be deep, it can be one moment that changes your life, or it can be a pattern of prayer that changes your life. Yeah. It's not contrary to enjoyment. Whereas the world of total work is the only valuable things have to be the result of effort. Right, have to be the result of striving. Okay, and so in some ways, the mark of what's valuable is that you suffered it was difficult.
So stop for a second. Yeah. So the total work.
Yes.
That's the idea, the faulty idea that maybe is creeping in here. I don't know how that's Kantian. I don't want to know right now.
No. It's that what's valuable has to be the result of striving and work and difficulty.
And I can see that.
That's the key idea.
I can see that with the spiritual life.
That's what leads to the world of total work.
Yeah, which is I have to work really hard, and if I don't work really hard, it's not spiritual.
It's not valuable.
It's not valuable. It's not worth it.
Value is the result of our efforts.
Yeah.
I mean, that isn't that the contrary of grace?
Totally.
Grace is like, no, despite your efforts, but I love your efforts. Yeah. I'm going to bless you anyway. I'm going to give you great favor beyond what you could ever possibly conceivably earn.
Well, not to throw a little bit of wrench in this whole thing, but Dallas Willard once said that grace is not opposed to effort.
Exactly.
It's opposed to earning.
In fact, I was thinking that quote when I was just saying that on
Really?
purpose. So yes, so it would be consistent.
Are you just saying that?
No, I'm not. I'm dead serious. I was just thinking of that quote.
Okay.
Right? You should know that, right? We have the telepathic communication. You should know that that's what I was thinking of.
It's a great quote, and is a great thinker.
Yeah.
God bless his soul.
So it's not opposed to effort.
Right.
So God likes it when we try.
Yeah.
Right? But his grace isn't dependent on our trying.
He doesn't give it to us because we try.
Exactly.
He gives it to us because he wants to.
Exactly. And even when we do try, the kind of blessing he puts on top, the favor, the grace that he gives us, so far surpasses anything any human effort could even do, even if we were perfect.
Yeah.
It surpasses it. Even if we were sinless in the Garden of Eden,
Yeah.
right? That doesn't mean we're going to heaven just because we're in the Garden of Eden, we're sinless.
Yeah.
You still have this entire elevation. It's like Dante's on the top of Mount Purgatory, right? Heaven's still way up there. He's now cleansed of all sin.
Right.
He's sinless at this
Yeah.
point.
Right.
You're not in heaven.
Yeah.
That's not being elevated
Virgil
into the
says,
divine life.
I crown you and I mitre you Lord of yourself.
Yes.
That's what he says at the
Yeah.
end of that.
Yeah.
That's a great line.
That's
I love
awesome.
That line.
I love that. I
Yeah.
didn't know that. Yeah.
It's because you don't know as much as me.
I don't know as much as you on this point for sure.
Well,
Right. I have to admit, it's almost like confession for a scholars. I haven't actually read through the whole Purgatorio and Paradiso.
Oh my goodness.
I'm like those typical people that they read through the whole Inferno and they teach from that and they know that and they never move on to the other ones because I don't know. Life's
to
too busy.
me-
The world of total work. I blame the world of total work.
Right. You blame the world of total
yeah.
work. You
It's
blame
Kant's fault.
somebody.
It's Kant.
Yeah. Or Trump.
Yeah.
It's Trump's fault probably.
Yeah.
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 Because everything's his fault.
Well, actually, it's ultimately SCOTUS's fault. We all
Okay.
know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Or
everything's
Occam.
right.
It's
No,
all
SCOTUS
Occam's
is
fault.
before him.
Okay.
Yeah. Occam's because SCOTUS is SCOTUS.
Okay. There you
Which
go.
is, by the way, an interesting neo-Thomistic perversion of a Lutheran narrative, which the Lutherans were trying to throw SCOTUS and Aquinas under the bus.
Thomistic.
Yeah.
Lutheran.
Okay. Just shut me up, bro.
Okay. So pilgrimage, going back to pilgrimage.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about myself going. So I have to put out a lot of effort, but I'm intending the effort to be, I'm trying to learn about God. I'm trying to
God,
learn about
please teach
myself.
me.
God, help me learn about you and your kingdom. I'm open to your grace, but I'm going to do this stuff on purpose. Like there's
And I want to
Psalms.
rejoice when I see things to rejoice in. Like I
Yes.
see this beautiful church.
No,
right?
no, that. But let me tell you
Okay,
what. When I
go ahead.
see the gelato shop in Italy, I'm going to rejoice because that was divine.